The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on ATLAS.ti 8 for Mac. My name is Ivana, and I'm the project coordinator with ATLAS.ti. And well, I'm here today to introduce the software, and what we're going to see is a global overview. And so we'll see how ATLAS.ti looks and how it works, and of course how you can use the software in any of your qualitative research projects. I've also put up our contact information here, and I invite everyone to take a note. And if you ever have any questions about anything regarding ATLAS.ti, you can always count on our support. Just send us an email or give us a call. We'll be happy to help. If you don't see the telephone number for your country listed here, you can take a look on our website and you'll find all the phone numbers for all our international offices. Now, in addition to this, after seeing today's webinar, if any of you decide to purchase ATLAS.ti, all of you can count on a 10% discount coupon. Just send me an email and let me know, and I'd be more than happy to send along that discount coupon to you. So then, I would like to begin by saying, what is ATLAS.ti? So that we're all starting on the same page here. Well, ATLAS.ti is a computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software. In other words, ATLAS.ti is a tool that we can use to facilitate our analysis of any unstructured or non-numerical data. So virtually any type of qualitative data. And we can use ATLAS.ti as we identify the themes or patterns or meanings across our data. Now, although ATLAS.ti won't do the analysis for you, it can certainly help. And so, we can help make sure that our analysis stays more organized, that it's transparent, and we can integrate our analysis across a variety of sources. In addition to this, we can use ATLAS.ti for teamwork. We can combine qualitative and quantitative analyses, carry out triangulation, and of course, we can analyze a great variety of types of data. So we can analyze textual data, such as interview transcriptions, or academic articles. Of course, ATLAS.ti is also a great tool for the literature review. But apart from text, we can also analyze images, audio recordings, videos, geodata, survey data from Excel, the tweets from Twitter. We can import bibliographic references from different reference manager softwares. So all these different types of data can be added to the same project so that you can analyze the overarching patterns and trends. And so nowadays, we count on ATLAS.ti version 8 for Windows and Mac computers. And any ATLAS.ti project is fully compatible and transferable across both operating systems. So even if you yourself use both computers, or if you work in a team with a mix, you can certainly count on ATLAS.ti. Now, if you have an iPad or an Android tablet, you can also download the ATLAS.ti mobile app for free. And so this can be great, maybe if you're out in the field collecting data and you already want to start kind of putting together your notes and ideas. And so you can always find the ATLAS.ti mobile app for free. And so that's another, convenient option. And we've also recently launched a brand new version of the software, and that's ATLAS.ti Cloud. So this is the first version of ATLAS.ti that's fully based online. And so you don't even need to download and install a software on the computer. You just need a computer with an internet connection, and you can log into your ATLAS.ti Cloud account and continue analyzing your data. Now, at the moment, ATLAS.ti Cloud is in its beta version. And while we're in the beta version, you can all use it for free. So if you're interested, feel free to enter our website, and you can create your ATLAS.ti Cloud account there and also try analyzing your data online. Now, any of these projects from cloud or from the mobile apps, they can always be opened in one of the desktop versions of the software in case you want to continue your analysis from there. And today, of course, we're going to focus on ATLAS.ti for Mac. So if you do decide to purchase the software ATLAS.ti for Mac, and so you have it installed on your computer, well, all of our licenses always include full functionality. So that means it's a one-time purchase and you get the whole software. There's no extra charges or hidden costs that'll come up later on down the road. And in addition to this, any updates that we release to ATLAS.ti 8 are also included for free. So for all you students here today, you can get a student license for ATLAS.ti, and this of course comes at a significantly reduced cost. And you can get it for a period of 6 months or 2 years. But now if this period goes up but you're still studying, you can of course extend your student license. So even though if after 2 years you're still studying, you want to continue with ATLAS.ti, you'll be able to extend it so you have it for the entire duration of your studies. Now, for all you other researchers here today, researchers and professors and so on, you can get single user perpetual licenses. So this is a lifetime license of ATLAS.ti. Now, remember, no matter what kind of license you might decide to get, all of you can count on that 10% discount coupon. So feel free to ask me for it after the webinar if you would like. Now, if you want to already try out ATLAS.ti today and get started with your analysis and try it out with your own data, well, you can download our free trial version. Our free trial version has the full software, it's all of the features and tools, and it has no time limit, so you can use it for as long as you would like. The only limitation is in the size of the project that you can save, but it certainly offers an excellent way to start getting to know ATLAS.ti and trying it out with your own project. And then, if you start your project in the free trial version, later when you get a license, you can continue with that same project. Now, aside from the licenses, on our website, you can find a lot of different learning resources. And if you want to explore and learn more about using ATLAS.ti, for example, if you and your group of colleagues or peers or students want to learn more about the software, you can request a free on-demand group demo webinar. Basically, you just need to let us know what parts of ATLAS.ti you want to learn more about, and then we'll prepare a personalized presentation for you and your group. Now, if you want to learn ATLAS.ti in even more depth, you could always attend one of our premium trainings. We offer these all year round in online and face-to-face formats, and so you can see all our upcoming trainings on our website. And upon completing any of our premium trainings, you'll also receive an official ATLAS.ti certificate. And aside from the trainings, you can also find a lot of different resources on our website. We have the full software manual. We also have a quick tour guide that's great for any first-time users. We have a research blog full of real-world case studies or best practices articles. And then what I would particularly recommend are our video tutorials. So we have a lot of different video tutorials on the different features of ATLAS.ti, or we also have videos of previous presentations or different things that you can do with the software. So feel free to explore all these different resources. And of course, if you ever do have any questions or doubts, you can always count on our free perpetual support. Just give us a call or send us an email and we'll be happy to help. So without any further ado then, let's go ahead and take a look at ATLAS.ti 8 for Mac. So here we are, already inside ATLAS.ti, and I've opened up a project here. We can see the title up at the top, and in this project, we're investigating children and happiness. So the effects of having children on parents' happiness. Now this is a sample project that we created, just for sort of showing ATLAS.ti for teaching. And if you would like, you can download this same project from our website. And so then you can also open it on your own computer and explore it in case you're interested. And so, okay, we're inside ATLAS.ti, and we can see, as per usual, we have, the main menus along the top. Now here on the left-hand side, we have the Project Explorer panel. So in this panel, we'll always be able to see and directly access any part of our project. So the first thing we see here are documents, and we have 44 documents, okay? We can open up the list and see these 44 documents here. All right then, but what's a document? Well, documents in ATLAS.ti refer to any source of information that we're going to be analyzing. So our documents are our data. You can add any documents to your project just by clicking on the plus button here, and you import your documents there. So our documents can be textual documents, such as articles or participant responses. So in this case, we also conducted a survey with 2 open-ended questions, and so we imported each person's response here. We can see, how each person answered these questions. But documents can also be videos or audio files, images, tweets from Twitter, Google Earth Maps, so any kind of data we're going to analyze, we'll add as a document to our project. Now, here on the right-hand side, we have the Inspector panel. This panel simply serves to show more detailed information on whatever object you've just clicked. So I just click on this document here, and it shows us this is document number 34. We can see the title of the document. Now, the great thing about the Inspector panel is that we can also easily edit any of this information here. So if we want to change the title, we just type it right there, and then ATLAS.ti updates this throughout the rest of the project. So the inspector panel is handy for that extra information. For example, with the article here, so we have a secondary source. Well, we've written also the full reference in the comment space of this document. So we can have the title here, and then we can also take a note of the full reference right there. Now, every single individual object in ATLAS.ti has its own comment space. And this simply serves in case we would like to provide any additional information about this object in particular. You can also think of the comment space as a sort of sticky note that's always going to be attached to that object. So with documents, like I said, if we're working with secondary sources of information, then this is the perfect space to note down the full reference. And so we'll always remember exactly where it came from. For my photo, maybe I might want to write, who took this photo or where or when, any kind of relevant notes for my own research. And then finally, we can also see that ATLAS.ti keeps track of who worked on each document or each, object here in the project when any changes were made. And ATLAS.ti automatically keeps track of your username. So it takes it by default just from the name on your computer, but you can change it as well if you would like. But the great thing about this is that, we can see how we can have multiple people working on the same project, but ATLAS.ti will always keep track of who did what and when. So that's why it's also a great tool for teamwork. But all right then, so enough about the interface of ATLAS.ti. So we all understand more or less what we're seeing here. But now then, okay, so how do we actually analyze the data? I'm going to open up a document here that we haven't yet analyzed too much. We have a nice clean space. And so another article. I would need to write the full reference here in APA style. And all right, and maybe I can even kind of clean up the title of the document here, right? I always like to put the author and publishing year as well, straight in the title. And so that way I'll know how to cite this article whenever I'm writing about it, for example. And it's just nice to have that information, easily available. But okay, so then how do we analyze textual data in ATLAS.ti? Well, we go through reading the article. And whenever you come across anything that captures your attention, anything that can help you answer your research question, just highlight that segment of the text. Now you can select as much or as little text as you want. Always the full power of the analysis is in our hands. So we decide how we're going to analyze the data, how we want to segment the data. We decide which parts are relevant or not relevant. So we choose how much we want to highlight here. And now to save this segment, we can right click or click with 2 fingers in the Mac. It depends on your settings. But we right click and we have some different options here. We could simply save this quotation. So if we click there, we now see on the right-hand side in this margin area, we have this blue vertical bar. And this is simply indicating the size and location of a quotation in this document. So a quotation is simply a segment of data, a segment that we've selected. Now we can go through just saving these quotations. Maybe I just want to mark out these passages of interest and later I'll come back to it and take a look and, see how I want to analyze it. And ATLAS.ti is a really flexible tool and it can be adopted within just about any type of qualitative methodology. And so it doesn't force us to do anything to these quotations. If we just want to save it like that, we can do that. Now, on the other hand, as I'm reading through the text here, well, maybe I do want to go ahead and already start capturing my analysis on these quotations and kind of organizing all this information. So I want to go ahead and already start coding the quotations. So when we talk about coding, well, basically we mean that we're going to associate a code to our segments of data. So what is a code? Well, a code can simply be a word or a short phrase that's describing something we're seeing in the data. We can also think of codes as tags that you're going to go attaching to all the different bits of information here to organize everything. We can create as many codes as we want. You can attach as many codes as you want to any quotation. So like I said, it's very flexible and, the full power is in our hands to code the data in the way that we prefer and according to our qualitative methodology. But all right, going back to our example here, I can see that this quotation, well, it has to do with well-being. And as I start typing, ATLAS.ti actually starts showing if I already have any codes that match the typed text. So great, I already have a code for well-being. And I can see a pessimist claims, pessimistic claims, and maybe utility, right? So in this case, I'm just putting codes based on what I see in the quotation, and we can add as many codes as we want. And so then we have the quotation saved, and these codes are associated. So we can continue, we can create new codes like this. Or let's imagine that as we continue reading, we come across a phrase that maybe we love the way in which the author expresses something. We want to capture those words. Or better yet, maybe we want to capture the exact words of our participants. In these kinds of examples, let's say we find a phrase that seems really salient for our investigation. So we just highlight that phrase. And then we can take advantage of in vivo coding. And what in vivo coding does is it'll take that segment that we've selected and it'll convert it into a code for us. So this is another way that we can create codes that emerge from the data. Now I really like this code here, and we can continue using it with more quotations. But actually I want to have this code, to capture the whole context in which it's appearing. I want to capture the whole sentence here. Well, we can always easily resize any of our quotations. We just drag and drop the ends. ATLAS.ti will adjust the size like that. As we continue reading and coding the information here, well, eventually we're going to have some codes repeating. So maybe actually once again here, I can see that, it's actually talking about a child's first words again. And so we just created that code here. So I don't want to make another one and have duplicates. I'd rather put everything under the same code. So how can we then use codes that we already have? Well, we can visualize all of our codes in the Explorer panel on the left-hand side. In this case, we have 111 codes in this project. And so here we have our code, child's first words, that one we just created. And so to associate the code to the quotation, just drag and drop. And ATLAS.ti saves the quotation and associates the code. So analysis in ATLAS.ti can also be as simple as dragging and dropping our codes from the left-hand side. And so this is one of the main parts of the analysis in ATLAS.ti. We need to segment the data, and we can associate codes. And so while I'm going through reading this article, I'm adding my codes, and it's great, giving me a lot of ideas. But it's also reminding me of something that I read in another article, something that a participant brought up, and I'd like to write down all these ideas in my head. I'd like to have a place where I can note these things down. Well, in ATLAS.ti, we have memos. A memo is essentially a notebook, and so it's a blank space that we can use to write down anything we would like. Let's go ahead and create a new memo. We'll click on that plus button again, and so here we can always create new objects in the project, and so a new memo. ATLAS.ti opened it up for us. I'm going to go ahead and give it a more descriptive title instead of just memo. It's all about, a child's first words. And so just like any text editing document, we can change the font or style, and we can structure our memos in whatever way we like. We can also insert the timestamp. If you press Command D on the Mac, so that's Command D, you'll get the timestamp, so the exact date and time. That's really handy, it makes it really easy just to keep track of our evolving analysis. And then we can use memos to write out, our analyses or descriptions of what we're doing, any ideas that we have. Same with any questions or doubts that come to our mind during the project. We can also use a memo to keep our research diary. That's something important for any project. We can even just use memos to keep a list of the tasks we have to do today. We can create as many memos as we want, so definitely feel free to be creative in how you use them. But I definitely recommend it. Whenever anything comes into your mind, just note it down in a memo. Because we never know, maybe it'll come in handy later on down the road, maybe not. But it's all part of the process. And definitely by forcing ourselves to put our thoughts into words, it certainly helps us crystallize our understanding of the data and, what's going on in our project. And so now I would say, I find it really interesting how Angeles 2009, so I can see it already right there, talks about children's first words. Right? and so on and so forth. So in reality, I would take a few minutes here to note down my ideas, and then great, now I can just save it, and then we can forget about it. Oh, but before moving on and continue reading the article, well, it was this quotation here that inspired my reflections in this memo. And so we want to make sure that we'll remember that this memo is talking about this quotation, right? Well, just like we can associate codes to quotations, we can also associate memos. And we'll do it in the exact same way as we did with our codes. So here we have the memo we just made, and we'll just drag and drop it on top of the quotation, and there we have it. Now we can double click and we can get a preview of the memo, we can open it again and continue writing. So very easy to access, very comfortable. And the fact that we can directly associate memos to our quotations is also a hugely helpful feature because, on the one hand, we can already start elaborating the first drafts of our final article right here in our memos. And on the other hand, well, we can directly associate our analyses with the supporting empirical evidences. And so then later, with one click, we can tell ATLAS.ti, okay, show me this memo and all the data I have attached to it. And then we have everything, all the relevant information in one place and really easy to find again. So this is really the foundation of analysis in ATLAS.ti. We segment the data, we associate our codes, and we write in our memos. And so that's really the most important part, and I think where you're going to spend the most time working in ATLAS.ti is the coding and writing memos. And of course, this is very important always. But since we are also using a software, we could also take advantage of some of its tools to maybe help kickstart our analysis. So let's imagine, I've just added this article here and I haven't even read it yet. And before, getting involved in every little detail and, really getting into the article here, well, I'd like to just have a quick global overview of what this article is about. What are the main concepts that the author is talking about here? Let's conduct a content analysis. If we go to the analysis menu, we can find all the different analysis tools we have here. And with the word cruncher, we can do content analyses. We can analyze the frequencies of words in any of our text documents. So I'll just select the article here, and we can see all the words that are in it, the length, how many times it appears, and what percentage that makes up. I'm just going to go ahead and reorder it so we can see the most frequently occurring words right here. And great, so now we can see the main concepts that are coming up. Now for my content analysis, I'm not so interested in analyzing words like the, of, and. Of course, this is very frequent, but it's not interesting here for the content. So I'd rather just exclude them from the count. Well, we can use the stop list that we have here. We'll just choose English because in this case I'm working with English data. And then it'll automatically exclude those words from the count. So let's see if it'll refresh here. And so then that can help us, it's already not have to pay attention to those things. And we can also manually edit any of these lists. So I can see that it's a bit stuck here, but we can also add any more words to our stop list. We can also create go lists if we only want to focus on certain words, so we can edit these lists here. We can also change the threshold if you only want to see words occurring more than a certain number of times. And we can also do this content analysis with more than one document at a time. And so we can see, the aggregates here, or we can have the count separated for each document if you want to see how many times a word occurs across all of them. So this is also great for, easy comparisons. And we can save this table in Excel. If you click on Export Table, ATLAS.ti will save it in Excel for you, and so then we'll have the spreadsheet and you can continue working on it from there. But okay, so looking back at our main article here, so I can see that, let's see, I see that people, happiness, results comes up 36 times. So I wonder why, what kind of results is the author talking about? Is it the results of the study or the results of having children or what? I wonder in what context is results coming up? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. Whenever you want to search for a particular word in any text document, you can also take advantage of autocoding. So with autocoding, not focus group coding, what we can do here is, well, search for any word that we're interested in, and then every time ATLAS.ti finds this word, it can automatically save a quotation and associate a code for us. So we tell ATLAS.ti what code we want it to use. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just create a new one for results, just to keep it. All right, and so then that'll now appear in our list. We tell ATLAS.ti what code we wanted to use and what size quotation we wanted to create. Well, I wanted to highlight the full sentence in which the word appears, but it could also highlight the full paragraph or chapter. We can choose. And we can also adjust the scope, if we want to look at more than one document at a time. So we click Next, and autocoding has begun. ATLAS.ti found the word, highlighted the sentence, and now we can decide whether or not we want to code this. Well, okay, I found something in the abstract. I'm not so interested in coding the abstract, so I'll just go ahead and go on to Next. And so then it immediately jumps to the next find. So in this way, we can very quickly and easily filter through any amount of text and identify where we have these relevant segments of information coming up. So we can easily filter through everything. And if we click on Code All, ATLAS.ti will go ahead and automatically code every time it finds the word. And so now we can go through and review it. Maybe we can, now I want to continue adding my memos, my reflections, or adding more codes, to continue with this data analysis. Maybe we want to remove some quotations, maybe it's not necessary here. Or, maybe I want to expand a quotation. Of course, so we can edit all of this, but at least with autocoding, it helps us to to already identify where we have these segments and kind of kickstart the analysis. So these kinds of tools like autocoding and content analyses, I think they can be particularly helpful at the beginning parts of any project when you just kind of want to explore your data and see what's out there. So those are some of the different ways we can work with textual data. Now, what about if you want to analyze multimedia data, such as videos or audio recordings? So let's take a look here. We have a video, an interview with a family. And so from ATLAS.ti, we can, of course, directly watch or listen to our recordings. We can change the playback rate if you want it to go faster or slower. And, well, we can also directly analyze on this data. And we're going to do the same thing we've been doing up until now. We'll create quotations and associate codes and memos. So quotation on a video or audio file. So how do we do that? Well, we'll select a segment of the video here. Go to the right-hand side next to the margin area, and we also see the timeline here. So to create a quotation, all you have to do is click, drag, and drop, and then there we have that familiar blue vertical bar. So ATLAS.ti has already saved this quotation. Now we can easily revise this by double-clicking, and then ATLAS.ti will replay exactly this segment. So exactly this quotation, so we can easily, revise it, and maybe I say, oh, actually, I want to start a little bit earlier, all right? And maybe you want to as well, and so then, we have the quotation, and then, of course, we can continue as always to add our codes. We can right-click, we can use the buttons above, these are also always available. And, of course, we can just drag and drop our codes from the left-hand side. So we just click, drag, and drop to select the quotations on our video or audio files. Now, if you're working with video data, and you also want to analyze, what's going on visually here, how they're holding the children or where they're looking. I also want to go into more detail here. Well, we can easily create a snapshot. We click on this button, and ATLAS.ti basically takes a screenshot of the video, and it's added this as a new image in our project. So we have a new document here. And now this is simply an image file. And so now we can analyze this graphic data. And we're going to do it in the same way as always. We just select a segment. So we just click, drag, and drop to highlight the portion of the image you're interested in. And then we can use the buttons above or right-click. We can use keyboard shortcuts. And of course, drag and drop our codes from the left-hand side. And remember, we can create as many quotations as we want, and they can be overlapping, so we can really go into as much or as little detail as we want with our analysis here. And so with that, you already know how to analyze images, videos, audio files, and text. And so, like I said, this is really, the most important part, the foundation of the analysis in ATLAS.ti. And so let's imagine, now I've gone through and I've coded all the data. And now I'm at the part, maybe I'm writing up a part of my report. And I want to see all the information that we found on children and happiness, on this relationship between children and happiness. So I want to export a report. Now, all of these main entities have their own manager. And the managers serve, where we can see more detailed information, organize these things, and also export reports. So I'm going to go ahead and open the codes manager because I want to look at my codes here. We could access it right here, from the codes menu. And you also have a shortcut just by double clicking on codes. It'll open up the code manager. So here we can see our full list of codes. We can see, we have the inspector panel again. We can see the quotations down below that are associated to each of our codes. So we already get a preview. We can also see code groups. So we can create groups to organize our codes. And we can create as many groups as we want. So maybe, if you want to group together codes that are similar or that are, about the same thing, or just, however you want to organize your list of codes, you can just highlight the codes you want to group together and drag and drop them to the left-hand side, and then you can give a name to the group. Any single code can belong to as many groups as you would like, so you can definitely take advantage of these groups to organize your codes in whatever way you prefer. And so, for example, about children and happiness, like I said, I wanted to see all the information that we found here. So all the data we have behind these codes. So I'll just highlight these codes. And let's go ahead and export a report. So we have the export button here. And we can always choose whether we want to export it as a spreadsheet, so a table in Excel, or a report, like a Word document or a PDF file, so a text report. Well, since I want to see the quotations, I'm going to choose report because I find it easier to read in a Word document. And so on the left-hand side, we get a preview of what a report will look like. And on the right-hand side, we just tell ATLAS.ti what information we want to put in this report. So we can see we have our codes. We can see the comments that we wrote on codes. So remember we said every single individual object has its own comment space. And when it comes to working with codes, we'd like to take advantage of the comment to write out the operational definition of each code. So to say what exactly is this code referring to? And then we have that information here, so we can always easily keep track, how we analyze each code or how, each code is understood in this project. But okay, I also want to see the quotations that we have linked to our codes. And I want to see the quotations in their full content. I'd also like to see if there's any other codes associated or memos. So you just tick the boxes of whatever information you're interested in. And by clicking on these drop-down arrows, you can continue to go into more and more detail on each part. So these reports are fully customizable. And then we can already see the preview here. And so, here we have our code. It's comment. It has 21 quotations associated. Here's the first quotation. We can see the codes that were attached to it. So in this case, only one. Here's our next quotation. We have one code and one memo, and so on. So we can see all of this relevant data in one single document. And as we continue scrolling down, here's our next code. And then this one has 22 quotations. And now we can save this report on our computer, and this would be saved, as a Word or PDF file. And then later when I'm writing about children and happiness, well, I don't even have to open ATLAS.ti. I can just look at the different reports that we've exported. So exporting reports is a great way to quickly and easily retrieve different parts of your analysis or your project. And well, now that you know how to use the code manager, you know how to use all the managers because they all have the exact same practice and interface. I'll open up the documents manager here just to show you. You can see it's the same idea, just that in this case we're looking at documents. We can see the preview down below. We can also create groups of documents to organize them. So for example, groups can be a great way to organize your participants according to their demographic data. So we have a group for male participants, female participants. And just by clicking on the document, I can already see that this Participant is a male with children, married with 2 children, right? So you already get, the idea of these demographics right there. And then, of course, we can also export reports. Now, I'd like, exporting reports. It's really a great time saver that we can just retrieve our information with just a few clicks. But I also like to work in a visual way, so it's sometimes helpful to see everything kind of spread out on one sheet, and we can start drawing connections across everything and kind of making this global picture of what's going on in our analysis. Let's go ahead and create a network. I'll create a new network here. So we open up a blank space. I'm going to give it a more descriptive title. And I'll use this network to take a look at the different definitions of happiness that we identified throughout the study, different ways of defining happiness. Now we can visualize any part of our project in a network. We have some codes here on definitions of happiness. I'm going to start by just adding these. And so to add anything to the network, just drag and drop. Now we have this code, definitions happiness. It's kind of a global overarching code, very broad. And we realized it was too broad, because then we started noticing, that there's actually sort of 3 main ways that people define happiness. And so then we created these 3 other codes to capture that. Now I'd like to show visually that these 3 codes, in reality, they just make a part of this code. I want to show this hierarchical relationship between the codes. So let's link them together. To link any objects in a network, first you click on the one you want to start with, and then this little circle appears in the corner. So click on that circle, drag and drop to the other code you want to link it to. And when you let go, you can choose a name for this relation. So say that this code is part of this code. So we click on the circle, drag and drop, and choose a name for the relation. We can create any kind of relation names that we want, and we can edit all these lines if you want to change the style or width or color. Always it's a flexible tool, and so we can use it to carry out our analyses or create any kind of network that we would like. And there we have it. It's a simple but certainly easy to understand network showing what we found about different definitions of happiness, and so that's a nice way to show. Always helps to show things visually. Although maybe I would like to show a little bit more detailed information in the network. Well, for example, we can view the comments that we wrote. So since we use the comment space to write out the definitions of each of our codes, well, now I can also visualize that in the network. And so this is great because now anyone who looks at my network will immediately be able to understand how these concepts were understood in this study or how these concepts were analyzed. And so this can be great to include in my final report or my presentation. It's a nice way to summarize, the analysis and to show what's been done. And, we don't have to stop here. For example, about, happiness being subjective. I remember it was something that we struggled to define. We had a lot of different data about it. And I'd like to show some of that data to illustrate this point. So let's go ahead and bring in the quotations that are associated to this code. When we right-click on any object in a network, we can add any of its neighbors, anything else that's been associated to it. So I want to see the quotations attached to this code. So ATLAS.ti brings them in for us, and we can see the 5 quotations. Right now, we're just seeing the names of the quotations, and although it's true we can edit these names, well, rather than taking the time to do that, I would just like to see the full content of the quotation right here. So let's go to View and show Previews. And great, so now I can see, the actual quotations of images. We can read our textual quotations. Maybe if we want to resize anything, we certainly can. And so this is nice to, illustrate what's going on in the data. And, we can link together any of the different parts of our network. So maybe here, the participants saying one thing, but then later on in the interview, they contradict themselves. And so I say, wow, that's actually really interesting. So I wonder why. And I want to show this, how interesting that they're contradicting. So why not create that link? This quotation is contradicting this one. While this quotation is perhaps expanding on what this one is talking about. So we can also create quotation links and just work on the level of the data. And remember, we can visualize any part of our project in a network. So why don't we also add that memo we wrote before? And we can also see a preview of the memo, so we can actually read our analyses and reflections right here. And then of course we can also link this memo as well to any parts of the network. So those are some of the different ways we can work with networks in ATLAS.ti, and we can create as many networks as we want. So it's definitely a great way to explore your data. I encourage you to be creative with it. And you can create conceptual or theoretical frameworks, or use networks for brainstorming if you want to just make a mind map. And of course, for kind of providing a summary of the analysis or the findings, it's always a nice way to present your work or something nice to include in the final article. Now I could literally just Command A to select all, Command C to copy, and I can put it in my presentation. And so then, when I'm showing what we did, well, here we have the network showing the things that we found. So just some of the different ways we can work with networks, but it's definitely it's certainly one of my favorite parts of the work in ATLAS.ti, where you can kind of start bringing everything together and drawing this kind of global picture of what's going on. So now finally, I'd like to also take a look at some of the other advanced analysis tools that we can use. So back to the Analysis tab. We have some different tools here. Let's start with the code co-occurrence table. With this table, you can analyze co-occurrences of any of your codes. Now, what does this mean? Well, co-occurrence simply refers to the coexistence of any two codes on the same piece of data. This can be two codes that are on the same quotation. We coded one quotation with two codes. They're co-occurring. Or maybe you have overlapping quotations. Then those codes are also co-occurring. So by looking at co-occurrences, we can get an idea of possible emergent relations among our concepts. Let's just take a look with an example here. Throughout our analysis, we identified a series of positive and negative effects that parents were talking about. Now I want to take a look at these. So we select the codes that we want to put in rows and columns. We're just making a table here. Now we can see it. And so basically what we can see here is that this code co-occurs 4 times with this code. If we click on the cell down below, we can see the quotations where we have this co-occurrence. So in 4 instances throughout this project, both of these codes are on the same piece of data. And we can see the quotations here for each code. Maybe I see it here, but I think, I remember this, it was very interesting, but I can't quite remember what the participant was talking about in this situation. And I'd like to refresh my memory, in what context was this coming up? Well, we can always, whenever we have these list of quotations, we can always open that quotation back again in its full context, in its original document, so we can see everything. And indeed, we can see we have co-occurring codes here. We have more than one code on the quotation. We also have overlapping quotations. So these are all examples of co-occurrences. So we always stay close to the data. We don't remove the data from the context. We can always easily open it again if we want to see it. Well, all right then. So how might we interpret this table? Well, I can see here we have a relatively high co-occurrence between the positive effect of personal growth and the negative effect of having more worries and stress and responsibilities. So I wonder why this is. In 13 different instances throughout this project, whenever parents talk about, having children brings more worries and stress, well, it seems that at the same time, they also talked about, yeah, but you get this feeling of personal growth. And so I wonder why this is. Why is it that these two things are coming up together so frequently? Could there be some underlying relationship between these two concepts? Some underlying explanation here? Well, maybe, for example, we're seeing this trend because, well, in order for anyone to experience personal growth, they have to undergo more worries and stress. So maybe that can explain this trend. And in reality, what I would do now is open up a memo and write out my interpretation in the memo and say, okay, I'm looking at my co-occurrence table and I can see this, and it makes me think that maybe there's this relationship between them. And then, we can look through the quotations and see, does my interpretation make sense? Does it fit with the data? If not, in what ways can we change this so that we can better tell the story of the data here? And so in that way, we can develop our analysis. But the co-occurrence table certainly helps to perhaps draw our eye to where there might be these possible emergent relationships, or as well if we just want to examine, which codes are appearing together on the same pieces of data. Now, if you ever want to, whenever you see these lists of quotations, if you ever want to save this, we can also export it. So we can also, save a report in Excel or as a Word document. And if you want to save this table, of course, we can also export it. So if we just click here, ATLAS.ti will open it in Excel, and then we can continue working on this table from there. We can create a graphic, maybe a bar chart or a pie chart to show these co-occurrences. And that could also be something great to include in the final report or presentation. So that's the code co-occurrence table. We can examine co-occurrences of the codes and possible emergent relations. Now finally, let's take a look at the code document table. So once again, we're going to construct a table. So we have rows and columns, but this time we're looking at our code frequencies. So how many times the code was used in any given document. And so in this case, we can either work with our individual codes, or we can also just work with the groups that we created. And the same goes for our documents. So let's see with an example. Now, another thing that we looked at in this project were the different reasons for having children that people talked about. So I'm going to select all of our codes about reasons for having children. I could select just the group, but I also, I don't just want to see it all aggregated together. If we want to see the frequency of each individual code, then of course we'll select the individual ones. And now I want to look at my participant data. So on the one hand, again, I could select each individual participant to see, but I'm actually more interested in directly comparing between the male and female participants. So instead, I'm going to select the document groups. And so now what this table is showing us is that this code appears once in the documents inside this group and twice in the documents in this group. In other words, it seems that male participants mentioned altruism twice as a reason for having children, while female participants mentioned altruism only once. Again, by clicking on the cells, you get that list of quotations down below. And so now we can easily explore, and it's nice to get this global overview of where in our project the different concepts are coming up. And so you can see with the example of the code group, it's just showing us in total. So we can see in total females mentioned more reasons for having children than males, right? Now, if we want to get rid of these empty cells, to kind of clean up the table, we can always compress it, and then ATLAS.ti will remove those empty rows or columns. And great, so we have this global overview. We can make easy, comparisons between males and females. Oh, I can already see only females talked about unconditional love. No, I wonder why. Again, I can open up a memo and write my ideas in there. But, what if, let's imagine here that, what if in this study we had 20 female participants and only 5 male participants? So if that were the case, then of course we would have higher frequencies from the female participants because we have a lot more information, many more documents there. If that happens, then, these numbers, we can't exactly compare them, not accurately anyway, because it's going to be a bit skewed because we're going to have higher frequencies under females than males. And so what do we do then? Well, fortunately, ATLAS.ti is here to help with our analysis. And if we go to the options here on the code document table, we can automatically normalize the counts. When we select normalize, ATLAS.ti will take into consideration the amount of data behind each of these, or in other words, it'll take into consideration the sizes of the documents or the number of documents, and it'll equate it, and so then it'll adjust the numbers. And so now we can indeed compare these numbers because now they're coming from the same size of documents behind it. And moreover, we can even look at our relative frequencies. So we can select if we want to look at the column or the row or the whole table. And so this gives us an even better idea where in our project these different things are coming up, and it allows us to make even better, comparisons. And so I can see, female participants, well, 30% talked about unconditional love, while male participants were pretty spread out across these three here. But relative frequencies are definitely much more helpful for getting a better understanding of, where these are all appearing. And on the other hand, if you're not interested in seeing the numbers, you can just binarize, in which case ATLAS.ti will simply show whether or not a code appears. So it just shows yes or no. And so that's also another option we have here. And like always, you can export this table to Excel if you want to save it. And that can also be something, if you want to include in your final report or presentation. So we can look at code frequencies with the code document table. And so with that, we've seen a global overview of ATLAS.ti 8 for Mac. And so now hopefully, you're ready to download the free trial version, create your project, and add your documents, add your data, select your quotations, associate codes, write in your memos, create networks, to visualize everything, and take advantage of all the different tools to interrogate your data in different ways. So with that, I'll conclude my part of the presentation, and we can now take time for any questions. If anyone has any questions or doubts, or if you'd like to revise anything else with ATLAS.ti, I'd be happy to go over something again. Please feel free to write in the chat box that we have here on the GoToWebinar panel, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And meanwhile, I'll also take advantage to show where you can all find more information on ATLAS.ti. So here we are on our website, ATLAS.ti.com. So if you're looking for the free trial version, well, you can just click right here, straight from the home page, and you can download it. It will automatically detect that you're on a Mac computer, so it'll download ATLAS.ti for Mac. And you'll click here. In fact, you'll just have to fill out a form. You'll enter your name and email address, and that's just so we can send the link to you via email. But it's free. I mean, it might look like a shopping cart, but you'll see the price is zero. And so you can use this for as long as you would like. We don't have any time limit. The only limitations are on the size of the project that you can save. So for example, you can only add up to 10 documents. All right, but as long as we stay within these limitations, you can save the project, close it, come back to it whenever you want, and continue working. So that's the free trial version for ATLAS.ti 8 for Mac. If you'd like to try ATLAS.ti Cloud, you can just click here. And remember, while we're in beta, it's completely free. So please feel free, if you want to sign up and create your account. And so it's a very similar working style that we highlight our quotations and add our codes. And yeah, it's interesting to see, it's a slightly different interface with the online platform, but of course the working philosophy is always the same with ATLAS.ti. And so definitely, feel free to check it out. And if you ever have any feedback or suggestions, well, we're always happy to hear from you, our users. Now, if you want to learn more about ATLAS.ti, we have the Learning tab here, full of different resources. So under free training, you can always attend another of our webinars again in the future. You're more than welcome to come again. We give webinars all year round, so feel free to take advantage. If you want to request one of those on-demand webinars, so a free webinar where you tell us what you want to learn about ATLAS.ti, and we'll prepare a personalized presentation. Just click here and you'll fill out the form, and you'll just let us know, how many people will be there and what you want to learn about with ATLAS.ti. It could be a general introduction, similar to the webinar we did today, or it could also be something more specific. Some people tell us, I want to learn about analyzing survey data, or we're going to do teamwork. We want to learn about doing teamwork with ATLAS.ti. You let us know, and then we'll get in contact with you to schedule a date and time that suits everyone best. You can also find more webinars we have on qualitative methodology if you want to sign up. And we also have webinars on different special topics. So for example, on conducting a literature review with ATLAS.ti. So those are different free trainings, and we also have the premium trainings. So if you want to learn ATLAS.ti in even more depth. And so you also have these options here. We have online courses and face-to-face courses around the world, so you can certainly check that out as well. And then what I also really like, the quick tour and the manuals. So here you can find all the information you might need on ATLAS.ti. This quick tour is great for any first-time users. It'll go through all the main things that we saw today, but of course just in a document so you can follow through and read with different examples. And you can also find the full manual here, different how-to documents. Here's that sample project if you want to download our Children and Happiness project. And you can also see our blog. And so we have different, best practices articles on exporting reports, or we have interviews with, real-world ATLAS.ti users and trainers. And so you can certainly check out the blog to see different ways that you can use the software and learn more about ATLAS.ti. But of course, if you ever have any questions or doubts, you can always count on our support. Just send an email or give a call and we'll be happy to help. So then, well, I thank you all for your time and interest today. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. And I'll leave my contact information up here, so in case any questions come up at any point, feel free to drop me an email. And I hope you all enjoyed, and I wish you all the best of luck with your qualitative data analyses with ATLAS.ti. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Goodbye.